Hey, welcome to the Business Beauty Network podcast where business meets beauty. I'm your host, Brandy Taylor. Welcome. I'm super excited to have you here. We have an awesome episode in store for you. I've been in this industry for over 16 years, and it is my goal to bring thought provoking conversations from business and beauty professionals to help us grow our business and expand our minds. And as I would say, it's not just lipstick, it's business. So we mixed in a little fun and we drop episodes on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, anywhere that you listen to your podcast as well. So make sure you check us out there and listen to it and subscribe there. Also, click the bell in YouTube so that you don't miss an upload. You also want to make sure that you check out our podcast on our website at businessbeautynetwork.com. You can email us at hello@businessbeautynetwork.com. We are super excited to have you a part of this community. And here is today's episode. Hey, welcome to the Business Beauty Network podcast where business meets beauty. Welcome. I am super excited to share today's episode with you. I have an awesome guest in store for you, but before we get into that, make sure that you are subscribed to the Business Beauty Network podcast wherever you're listening. And don't forget to share it. Sharing is caring. So if you know someone who will benefit from this awesome content, then make sure to share it. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and make sure that you are subscribed and you leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. That helps other people to find us. We're also on YouTube at Biz Beauty Network. Now that all of that is out of the way, I'm super excited to bring today's guest to you, Clayton Thomas. Clayton Thomas is the co-founder of Root Wellness, and we had a great conversation just about wellness and his brand and just overall how to take care of yourself from the inside out and those types of things. And that's very important in the beauty industry, that we take care of our health as well. So I thought it was great to bring Clayton on, and he was a fun guest to have on. Here is a little bit of Clayton's bio. Clayton Thomas is co-founder of Root Wellness, a social sharing community focused on foundations of wellness, host of the Green Edition Health and Wellness Show, and the founder of Root Brands. Clayton possesses over 25 years of experience in health and wellness. His latest products help you to detoxify yourself, strengthen your gut, and focus your mind. Hey, welcome to the podcast. It is your host, Brandy Taylor, and we have an awesome guest today, Clayton Thomas. Welcome, Clayton.
Brandy, thanks for having me. We get to talk about being beautiful, apparently, which I'm a little short on.
Okay. Yes. Well, wellness and beauty go together. So yeah, I guess we could talk about that.
I think it's a really important part because we put a focus on the outside, right? So heavily, and it's actually beauty starts on the inside because the skin, everything that we look at, all goes back on the inside. And if you don't feel good on the inside, you're not going to look good on the outside.
Definitely. I absolutely agree with that. So, but before we get into all of that, Clayton, tell us something about yourself that most people would not know.
Oh man, this is where it gets fun. Well, I think, there's the old adage that black don't crack, right? And people look at me and they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't fit. And I was a sprinter growing up, but one of the coolest things I found out from before genealogy was actually a big thing is understanding where I came from, because I had Irish slaves that were shipped to the British West Indies that got to commingle in the British West Indies and Jamaica. So I had two sets of slaves that came over. So, my ancestry is quite unique. That my lack of melanin is one that isn't indicative of our history. And I think it's been the one thing for people to understand and learn, that we put so much on appearance in so many different ways, but we have to understand that we're all from the same place. We're all like kind. And with all of the chaos that's going on in the world, where we try to separate everything into how we identify or what classes we're in, or what we look like, what belief system we have, what political belief system we have, it's kind of crazy because none of it matters. That we're all on the same team, we're all in the same boat. We're all designed to do this together. And I think the one big thing is understanding that really the one thing that I have the most fun with is offending people, because and you have to think about this, because if someone gets offended by something you do or something you say, they're paying attention. Because if you don't get a response, it's like if you were to do comedy, the scariest thing for a comedian is silence.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because no one responds. You're like, oh, that just died immediately. And so I think, the one big thing for me is understanding, having an understanding of where I come from, where we all come from, but knowing that I like to relish in the human experience, for what it is, because it's an interesting journey that we live in now.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. It's definitely interesting for sure. So, tell us why you start your day with a clean slate, so to speak.
The key to health, the key to beauty is the same that we do in the house, right? We know that we take care of our house, we clean up the house, we take out the trash, or at least as the man of the house, I get to take out the trash. And the same thing goes for, our entire operating system, that you have to take the trash out. And it's not something that you do, once for a week or a 30-day challenge or a 60-day challenge. It's something that you have to be consistent with. The same thing with washing your hair, washing your face, washing your skin, brushing your teeth, which hopefully you do at least a couple times a day. And the foundational piece of understanding that we are a byproduct of our environment, and you have to clean up your environment. We know we have to clean up the ocean. We have to clean up cities, towns, wherever you live. You want to make sure everything's clean. Our body is no different, but it's been the one thing that's been most neglected, because we put so much of a focus on what we can put on, what we can put in, but we don't focus on what we can take out. And there's so much of a conversation now, especially for women's health, because of the PFA conversation of what the general public is now being made aware of some of all these different forever chemicals, which is a conversation I'm having continually, and how these chemicals disrupt every aspect of our body, of our health, of our performance, but how we're exposed to them. And you've got to work to get this stuff out of you. And the clean slate it's simple in approach, it's simple in a philosophy.
Well,
That if you have,
how do you get a clean slate? Like, how do you get the toxins out?
well, one of the key things I do is I listen to my wife,
Oh,
Dr.
okay.
Christina Rowan. I will tell you, the key to any sign of intelligence in men is if they do a good job of listening to women.
I love that.
It's very true. Women are a lot smarter than we are. And guys might watch this and go, wait a minute, this guy's out of his mind. Here's the simple aspect. Guys, we can do one thing at a time. We work in boxes. Women multitask. They're doing 27 things at once. And if you can't understand that simple premise, then you don't understand the mechanism. But one of the things that I've done is listen to my wife, who happens to be a biotech savant, with 3 PhDs, a PsyD and EDD. She had Lyme disease when she was 19. She's had a brain tumor, a spine tumor, multiple kinds of skin cancer. And she spent 20 years in biotech, and she was able to take what she learned in the biotech space and applied it to what nature has provided us, and created some solutions that address this. And that is actually where Clean Slate comes from. But Clean Slate is really a simple addition, to life, to create little green garbage trucks that can go in and grab onto all of this stuff that causes the problems, the toxic heavy metals, the environmental pollutants, the PFAS, the chemicals, the graphene, the viral fragments, all this stuff. So it supports the body in doing it. But the other parts that are really important are things that people should be doing on their own regularly. Drink more water, go for a walk, get your feet dirty, go outside, get get grounded, as they say, but move, right? Just go for a 20-minute walk. These little things make a huge difference. Spending time outside. We just spent some time in the Hamptons for a couple days for a fashion event, and it was amazing because the comments from people that there's not a lot of cell phone towers up there, so the cell phone service is terrible. But they're like, it's amazing when we leave the city and we come up here that it's a lot more calm and relaxed. I'm like, yeah, because you're actually in an area that we're not getting irradiated. And the more you can do to focus on yourself and get a little exercise, just a 20-minute walk a day, just go outside, go for a walk, whether it's taking a break at work, before you go to work, when you get home. 20 minutes makes a huge difference. Drinking more water, because we need the water. We're dehydrated just because of how everything functions. And if you don't believe me, look at every skincare product you use. It's a moisturizer. We need more water. Eat more salt, eat more sea salt, because we are salt water, right? So we're not fresh water. We're actually made from seawater. And and those components are actually all built into Clean Slate. With what she's done is you have one of nature's most powerful crystals, that's processed in a manner to make it more bioavailable, but then it's loaded with trace minerals, and then it exchanges the bioavailable silica that our body needs. And that's actually one of the key components to regeneration for tissue, as well as your skin, your hair, and your nails, to allow the body to regenerate. And so, it's only through the genius mind of a woman that we actually get the creation, because like I said, guys, we're not smart enough to do it. We're too simple.
Now, how did you turn all of this into a business?
It was kind of like you've talked about. I've looked at some of your stuff and understanding marketing, but I was able to take my history, because I had about 45 years. I've been around for about 45 years and grew up in a veterinary practice that was highly integrative. So I understood the importance of health and performance in humans and animals. But I did some looking into different markets. I looked at what Amazon has done, right? And how Amazon started. And I grew up in Southwest Washington and lived in Seattle and watched Amazon start from when they sold used books online, and then grew. And they grew because people created an account, bought books, liked the experience, told their friends. And then over the last 15 years, we've watched the boom of social media. And and there's a couple really important pieces to the social media aspect. That one, the infrastructure was created to farm data, right? To gather massive amounts of data, so companies could compile that data and sell it and use it, and we give it freely, right? And that's the key component, is this mechanism that's been created has connected us, right? We used to be 6 degrees from Kevin Bacon. Now we know we're 6 degrees from 6 billion people. And we're all connected socially. We are this massive community, which means that if we're all connected, we are the marketing mechanism. We always have been, but it was how to apply it. And, I looked at different industries, like the direct sales industry, and you could say multi-level marketing and affiliate marketing, and understood that as the world's changing, as a business, as a company, your greatest asset is your customer, right? Regardless of what you do, what you make, what you sell, the one person you are responsible for is the one person that actually butters your bread, and that is your customer. You have to provide a great service, whatever you're doing, regardless if you have a restaurant, if you have a salon, if you make a widget, whatever it is. It's all about taking care of your customer. And if you do that, your customers will take care of you, because it is in our nature. If we like something, that we tell our friends, because it's just what we do. And we share it on social media. We share it with other people. Or if you have something that's really good and it really helps people, people will ask what you're doing because they'll see it in you. And with that, that behavior creates value. That single behavior is what creates the primary value for companies. If we just look at the last couple of years, look at the number of apps, right, that have gone viral. And how do they go viral? Is it because they spent a ton of money on advertising? No, they released an app and then people got the app and they told all their friends and they start sending messages to people, get this, you're going to love it. And they go on TikTok, they go on, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. And like, this is amazing. You have to get this too. We're never compensated for that value creation though. And I didn't want to create a vacuum, right? Because I am one who is made to serve my wife, and it's very feminine to want to take care of a larger community. It's very masculine to say, I'm taking care of myself, right? And I want to take, and I'm going to own this. So it was learning from my wife, listening and watching the market, and knowing that as a company in today's world, we could create something, and instead of taking our advertising money and giving it to the social platforms, or the beasts, as I like to call them, we could just double down on the experience and say, we're going to put our money into our customers and watch what happens. And it was a sociological experiment because there's no guarantee that it was going to work. And it's taken us from zero when we launched in February of 2020, which honestly was the greatest time to start a new business, right before lockdowns and COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gone from zero to over 190,000 customers in 60 countries in 3 years, and growing.
Wow. Now, what do you think has contributed to that success in your business?
Outcomes. It's really the most important part of everything. Is like I was mentioning, if you don't produce outcomes, you're not going to be in business very long. We can open a restaurant and we could make really shitty food, and we would have people come eat for a couple months, and then they wouldn't come back, right? Because you're not having the experience, you're not providing, what people are looking for, you're not creating the outcome that they desire.
Well, take us through the outcome, through the experience that you provide with your brand.
Well, the initial focus was in health and performance, right? That was the foundation of Root, with what Dr. Ram had created, was solutions to improve longevity, improve health, improve performance. And she understood what was coming because of her 20 years in biotech and some interesting life experiences. So she created solutions with Clean Slate, with Restore, with Zero In, to address the key components of what we're dealing with in humanity, and to reverse aging, which she holds a patent on. But as we did that, and as our customer base got exposed to the products and they used them, and they started to get like literal life-changing outcomes, that caused people to start sharing. But then what she started to do is, because of her background and understanding, she created, some of the skincare products, like Reno and the tea mist that we have, and now the Envirom line, which is a product pair that she created at Harvard when she was doing nanotechnology and bioscience engineering for 3 years in their program. And she created a nano skin protectant that you can put on your skin and you can put on your clothes to protect you from 5G and from fungus and parasites and viruses and heavy metals and radiation. And with the start, much like what Amazon had done, right? They started with used books and gave people a good experience. And with that experience, they created more customers. And because of the responsibility that they figured out, that if they take care of their customers and they provide a good experience, you can then provide other products or other services to your community, and they will continue to carry you. And because, Dr. Ram is really the individual in charge of putting forth solutions and creating she's been very specific in what she's designed of how to create, this ecosystem of products that can help us look young, stay young, be young, get younger, if we've been here for a few years, um, but also, function at a level of which we're not familiar with. And that process is something that people love and they share.
So you have your own personal story as well about overcoming illness. Can you tell us about that?
Uh, People make me sick.
Oh, okay.
No, it's been interesting. A lot of my sickness aspects comes from injury, right? And being an athlete and beating yourself up and tearing muscles and tearing joints and ligaments, and understanding the importance of recovery through those. And I haven't had the experience like my wife has had with the Lyme disease and with cancer and a lot of autoimmune issues that people get to deal with, partially because of how I was raised. I grew up in an environment where I was studying the importance of mineral supplementation when I was 8. And I understood the importance of diet and lifestyle. And about 18 years ago, I had my world turned on a literal 180 when I started to understand that the real solution was actually the removal of bad stuff. So, the equation that I use, that I've kind of adopted in my life is addition by subtraction. That you're going to eliminate a lot of the problems by removing what causes them, not by treating the symptoms. And it's not to say that I don't get sick, right? Especially in an environment that we have so much that we're exposed to, that you're going to get sick. You're going to be exposed to viruses. You're going to be exposed to different fungus and different things. And they're actually a good thing to be exposed to, right? If we look at babies, I was joking with my brother about this when his daughter and son were born, because they're 7 and 5 or 7 and 4 now. And we were joking because so many people are like, oh, you have to keep them all tied up and you got to keep them protected. And he's like, you know what, there's cultures in the world that they just let the kids out in the dirt, and they're out in the wild and they don't have problems and they actually don't get sick like we do, because you need to be exposed to the environment. And if you take care of yourself, your immune system, your body gets to experience whatever you're exposed to. It's going to rip apart whatever. If it's a virus, it's going to take that virus and actually break it apart and say, okay, I can use this, I can use this. This is going to allow me to upgrade and become stronger, become better, and then I'm going to get rid of the rest of it. And that's been the real important part of making sure that one, I try to expose myself to stuff, whether it's through my diet or just environment. Because of our travel schedule, there's some things that you just are going to run into, but knowing that I'm doing what I can to make sure that my body's in the right position to deal with stuff. And you just get to enjoy the experience.
And what's the overall mission of your company?
2 words: create greatness. Right. And it's something that is different for everybody. It's kind of like what Nike said with just do it, right? It's like, oh, you know what, I have something to do. Yeah, just do it. Just go about it. But philosophically, to create greatness, it was one of those things, being an athlete, that you never strive for mediocrity, right? If you're competitive or whatever you're doing, if you're a business person, if you're a parent, you're like, you know what, I want my kids to be really mediocre when they grow up. Like,
No.
you just no. And if it's in sports, we don't talk about, who was the most average, right? We argue over who was the GOAT, right? Who is the greatest? Is it Jordan? Is it Wilt? Is it LeBron? Is it KD? Is it Steph Curry? Is it Bill Russell? Is it Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, or pick another football player, or in baseball, or in hockey, or in soccer, which is the real football. We always want to talk about the greatest, right? Because that's what we want to see. That's what we want to become. So the goal was then, if we have the tools, and this is what Dr. Ram has created. So we have the tools, you have the mechanism. The goal then is to give each person the opportunity to become the best version of themselves. And one of the things that she wrote in her first book, have one, and Cure the Causes. Shameless plug, but this is actually a really good read. But one of the key quotes that she put in there is that each of us is an imperfect piece to a perfect puzzle. And I think it's so important to teach everyone this today, of understanding that if our goal is to become the best version of ourselves, you have to understand that we are made perfectly, right? Because we are divine, we are light, we are made from light, and we know our source. But we are also imperfect. And that's what makes us special. Because if we were all the same, if we were all alike, that would be boring, right?
Right.
It's the little details that make us unique and that make us special. And it's all of the experiences. Sometimes we see them as bad, sometimes we see them as good. These are the things that make us. And it's not a matter of changing who or what we are. It's not changing how you identify. It's not changing, who you really are. It's a matter of perfecting who you are and knowing that you're not made to fit with everyone, because you are your own piece, and you have the other pieces that fit around you. And when you realize that you don't have to please everybody, you don't have to fit in everywhere, but those pieces that fit with you will connect to other pieces. And only through you being your authentic piece and being the best you are, because we've all grown up playing with puzzles. And when you have one of the puzzle pieces that's bent and it just is all beat up, it's a hassle, because then you're like, damn, I can't put the puzzle together properly. But when you know where you fit and those other pieces come together, you get to see the whole collage in its entirety. But if you're not doing your part to be the best version of yourself, the whole picture is not complete. And I think that's the real core of knowing that, our sole job is to be the best version of ourselves. And if we do that to start with, everything else will get better. Because if we feel good, if we're functioning better, if our mindset is right, if our intention is right, then we create the world we live in. We manifest it, we create it through our intention, through our focus. And if you're toxic in your mindset, you're going to create toxicity and chaos around you. And if you start to clean yourself up and you start feeling better and functioning better, I'll tell you, the whole world gets better. Everything makes more sense and is more fun. So create greatness.
That's definitely powerful right there. That was definitely a powerful message. I absolutely agree with that. So, tell us about some of the products that you carry and how people can find them and all of those things.
So you can find them by going to therootbrands.com, and then we'll have a link below here so you can check it out. But so as we mentioned, Clean Slate is our foundation. Restore is designed to fix the gut and bring the leaky gut back together, decrease inflammation, really settle your gut. And then my favorite product is Zero In. And this is a little golden capsule of greatness. It is a little dopamine and serotonin agonist that feeds your gut what it needs to produce dopamine and serotonin naturally. It is the most powerful little capsule I've ever played with, and it's something that you can take during the day, and it'll help you focus. You'll compete from a sports standpoint like you've never imagined. Everything is banned substance free, which is really important, because what we've seen in sports performance, a lot of our professional athletes and doctors thought this stuff would be illegal if it wasn't tested, because of what we're seeing for outcomes. But those help tremendously. The Relive greens, we don't get enough of the really good greens in our diet, and they're so important for overall, body metabolism, and making you look and feel younger. So Relive Greens is actually something that Dr. Ram created from her experience in getting rid of a brain tumor. She had
Wow.
a what was it? A pituitary tumor, and instead of them going through her nose to try to get to a pituitary tumor that could have left her blind and dead, she decided to cut out pretty much everything out of her diet, and she was doing spirulina shakes and lots of greens, and was able to get rid of the tumor. And she figured that out because she was an adjunct professor in oncology at Johns Hopkins, and she speed reads and she has an eidetic memory. So she processes information like no one else, which is actually a terrible thing in a relationship, because if your wife has an eidetic memory and she remembers everything that she's read, seen, or heard, I cannot win an argument. And guys, if you're watching this, because you can be in an argument with your wife or your significant other, and you might think this is the topic that you're going over, and you might say one thing, and that's going to lead them into cross-referencing 25 other things that you've done as to how you got to this point, and just say, yes, dear, I'm wrong. But the skincare side, as we talk about beauty, the quality of ingredients is so important. And when you're creating something for yourself, and I think this is the real important part, when she's creating all of our products, she's not doing it from a market standpoint to say, hey, if we do this, we can sell a lot of it. She's making things for herself and making things for me and our kids and our family. And when you do that, you have a different approach. You're not going to compromise in quality, and you're not going to compromise in the ingredients. It's the same thing if you're making dinner for your family. You're not going to go get the cheap stuff from the grocery store. You're like, get me the best vanilla, get me the best ingredients. Don't give me the imitation stuff. I'll make that for friends. If it's for me, give me the good stuff. And Reno, which is our skin cream that she did, there's no fillers, there's no additives to it. It's a proprietary blend of a very special phytoplankton that only grows in one part of the planet, along with hyaluronic acid and some other components. And it's actually clinically shown to just get rid of wrinkles and tighten your skin and increase collagen like quickly. Stuff's amazing. It's one I don't use enough of. And it was interesting because when we made it, we made a little jar, and we're like, oh, this will last a month. But because it's so high quality and there's no fillers, a little bit goes a long way. So like the jar lasts people like 3 months. And we're like, well, this is not very good on the marketing and the business standpoint, because if you can buy something once and it lasts you 3 months, they're not gonna reorder as much. But the quality is outstanding, the outcomes are amazing, so that's what we want. So it's been interesting. And I mean, honestly, because of what she's done and how she creates stuff, there's not a single product that I can say isn't honestly best in class in what it does, or it's in the top 3 or top 4 of its category. But as we were talking about for skin exposure for women, the Envirom line, the Skin Defense, and the Envirom wear that you can put on your clothes or put on your skin, is when she told me that product, which is the newest ones we just introduced, and that's why we're at the Hamptons and fashion show. We're going to be in New York in a couple weeks for a fashion show in downtown, in Times Square. And she told me, she's like, this is the best one I've done. And we have clinical case studies for having autistic kids start talking and getting rid of breast cancer and getting rid of all the issues from COVID and long COVID and reversing Alzheimer's and all this stuff, with Clean Slate, Zero In, and Restore. She's like, no, this one is the best one. And we've seen using a spray topically on your face or on different spots, like eczema, rosacea, shingles, herpes, which is going to be a
Oh,
big
wow.
deal This and
All of
so
that.
side note for people. So scientific conversation. We'll take the glasses off here. So just so you know, in the next 2 years, the biggest problem that we're going to see in this country is actually sexually transmitted infections. So, guys, ladies,
No.
single, if you're single, be careful. But that is actually going to be the big issue that we're going to see. So you've got to make sure that you're protecting your skin, you're protecting your body. And yeah, they're crucial. And what we've seen, through now, 3 years of experience, 190,000 customers, of all ages. We have newborn babies on the products. We have 85-year-olds, probably some people that are older than
Now
85.
you have some strong claims. Do you have any, like, backing by any of the big major companies or the FDA or any of that? Or
So what we did, Dr. Ram spent 20 years in biotech. So she's worked with the NIH, the FDA. She's been at Pfizer, Alexion, Biogen, IDAC, Johnson and Johnson, UCB, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Janssen. She actually holds a master's in science, 3 PhDs, a PsyD, an EDD, the postdoc at Harvard, 2 postdoctoral certifications from Cornell in pharmaceutical management and nutritional counseling. And then she was an adjunct professor at Hopkins in onco. But what she did, and when she was working in the healthcare industry prior to us doing this, she was at the forefront of writing some research registries for tracking quality and cost improvements in healthcare and working in different aspects of the healthcare market. So what she knew and what she had done previously, we began to apply into what we're doing with Root and with Envirom and the other products, because the key, just as we know, from a consumer standpoint, the key is outcomes, right? It's producing outcomes. The same thing goes scientifically, that you have to create outcomes, but you also have to know how to track them. So if you're doing a clinical study, there's 3 types of clinical data that are usable in the scientific community, that are proven to be valid. One is, a clinical trial, right? Like a double-blind placebo-controlled study. The hard part is now a lot of those studies are manipulated, right? And that's been fairly well proven. The second is a case study, right? So looking at a specific individual and saying, okay, we're going to track all this information. We're going to do blood work. We're going to have labs. We're going to have your previous history. And then we're going to say, we're going to treat with this and this and this. And then we're going to track the progress. We're going to look at labs. We're going to look at, how things, if they improve, if they don't improve, what have you. And so you have that specific case study. And then you have a case series, right? So you might have multiple people that have the same issue that are being treated, in the same way or in different ways. And then you take those outcomes and then you put them together in a series of case studies, so you can see, okay, in these instances, these things were done and these were the outcomes. And those are the key components that doctors can do when working with a patient, but also a consumer can do if they have the right mechanisms. And we created a research registry that allows people to do it on their own, but we have doctors from all over the world that have been putting together clinical case studies, primarily because initially the outcomes that they were getting we'd not seen before, right? In the healthcare space in general. So when you start to see that, you're like, wait a minute, we need to compile this properly, and so we can present it, so it can be published. But if people do have questions, they can say, look, do you have proof? Yes, but it's not going to come from us. It's coming from an independent organization that's tracking everything, that's being peer reviewed, and that has the data, because the proof is in the pudding, right? If you have the data, you can show it. If you don't have the data, especially in today's world, over the last 3 years, this has kind of proven it. If you don't have the safety data, if you don't have the real outcomes, and you can't show that, hey, if you do this, you're going to get some benefit and you're not going to have the negatives, then we have something to talk about. But if you're just using fluff and you're using hype and saying, hey, this sounds really good, or this ingredient is amazing, you should take it. You go, well, how do I know the quality is there? Because if we talked about vitamin C, consumers don't know that the majority of the vitamin C supplements that they're taking are actually loaded with heavy metals. Just because the quality and where those things are manufactured is not very good. So you have to track it. And that's where, like the comments I was making with the things that I've seen, I can say those because we have the data. It's not hype to say, oh, well, this is going to happen. Really? Can you prove it? Well, I believe that it can happen. No, show me. So yeah, we've got it.
So, what is the biggest lesson that you have learned during your entrepreneurial journey thus far?
Failure is your greatest friend. So many people fail to fail. And we're even taught initially that failure is not the goal. And I think this is where sports is so special in growing up as a kid and competing and being able to compete collegiately. I was a sprinter. I was really fast as a kid. Played 3-4 different sports, but I was able to compete in the Pac-10 and Division I as a sprinter. And when I got there, I was really fast growing up, but when I got to compete at the highest level I was going to attain, I was no longer competitive. I mean, I could run 100 meters in 10.5 seconds, but the guys I was competing with were running it in 10.2. So you go, well, I'm going to compete. I know I'm not going to win, so I'm going to get my ass kicked every time. So I learned the value in failure, and and that's really created the philosophy that we have in business, and now kind of the philosophy that I have in life, because it's the one excuse I give my wife, that my goal is to fail forward, right? That failure is the greatest teacher, because it's going to teach you what you did wrong, or what you need to change, and how you can improve. Because if all you do is win, what happens when you come up against competition that is better than you, and all you've been doing is competing against people that aren't as good as you, and you're like, I'm the greatest? And you see this in kids all the time that come from a small town. They're like, I'm the greatest athlete ever. I'm like, let me take you into an area that's got a few more people in it.
Right.
And you see how you compete. You're like, well, this isn't fair. It's like, no, this is life. So just being comfortable in failure and accepting it, learning from it, and knowing that if you're not failing, you're not trying, right? Any scientist, as Dr. Ram talks about all the time, she'll create a formula and change it 17, 20 different times. The same thing with practice. If you're practicing anything, you go out and you're going to miss, and you're going to miss, and you're going to miss, and then you're going to succeed. You're like, wait a minute, that's success I learned from. And then you're going to work on that, and you're going to fail some more, and you're going to figure out, okay, I can do this consistently. And if I don't do this consistently, I'm going to fail. And then you go back and you play with it. So don't be afraid to fail. And I think the last 3 years has been very educational in that, because we've had an opportunity to fail in so many different ways. And the beautiful part, like being social, as podcasts and everything have gone viral in so many aspects. It's the beautiful part of being authentic, right? And none of us, we're not perfect, right? And that's what people really want to see, is they want chaos, right? And we just want to see how screwed up other people can be, because it makes us feel good. So when we fail, look at the stuff that's really popular on TikTok, or things that have been popular. It's people doing epic fails, right? People don't want to see someone have the greatest success ever. That's not, it's like, ooh, she stuck the landing. No, show me the crash, right? People don't want to watch traffic just going smoothly. They don't watch NASCAR. They don't watch Indy cars so they can watch cars go fast. No, they want to watch a wreck. They want to see chaos. Show me the failure. So.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I think so many people try to avoid failure. And because they're trying to avoid failure, they avoid taking chances in life and really stepping out there. So I truly appreciate you sharing that. Clayton, it has been awesome chatting with you today and learning more about you and your company. Can you tell everybody one more time how they can reach you and everything?
So you can go to therootbrands.com, and there will be a link below that we'll have. You can find us on YouTube. You can go to The Root Brands on YouTube, where there's like 400 hours of content. So if you want a great education on stuff, and I think you can find us on Instagram, and I think we have a TikTok and a Facebook page. I actually don't do TikTok yet. I'm going to, so I can offend more people.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure I have all of that information in the show notes. Clayton Thomas, everybody, as always, stay great, and we're out. Bye.
Thanks, Brandy.
Thanks. Bye.